Hey everyone, HCGChica. This is the 7th episode now of interviews with everyday people on the HCG diet. I have B here with me. She has actually lost 100 pounds with the HCG protocol with injections. And one of the reasons I wanted to bring her on here today, well, one, obviously she's lost 100 pounds. That's huge. So that's, one reason. But even aside from that, in hearing her story, she has a lot of good points to share from her journey that I think we can take from that. Both things that are motivating and just pointers that can help us through our journey. So welcome, B. Thanks for being with me today.
Thank you.
So, tell me, you've lost 100 pounds. You had mentioned to me you started around 270 and now you're like in the 160s?
As of just a few minutes ago, when I get home from work, I was at 168.6.
How has your clothing size changed from the start to now?
Drastically. It's even to the point that in the 4 rounds I've done, I've lost a shoe size.
Wow, really? Oh my goodness.
A 7.5 back down to a 6.5. But
that's crazy.
Actually, I'll show you. At my heaviest, I was a size 28. Now I don't have any.
A 28, you said, right?
I was like, this is coming off. It's not going back on. So even now, like just recently, Saturday night I went through my clothes, and even things that I got 2 months ago that had fit me that no longer do, gone. I'm not keeping anything.
I do the same thing.
One pair of pants. And this, I managed to find this hoodie, which when I was at my heaviest, this was like really tight on me. It was stuffed sausage.
Yeah.
So.
Let's see it now. Oh my.
But I am and always will be deep in the heart, nothing more than a.
Wow. So you said that was skin tight on you when you started HCG? Wow, I can't believe it. Wow. Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. And then after I finished my first round, I was down to a size 20.
Okay, so 28 to 20
after
round 1. Wow. That's crazy.
And now, as of Saturday, I went shopping, and these are a size 8 tees.
A size 8?
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
And so, that is in about 16 months, I think. I started my first round. I started loading February 11th, 2012.
Wow.
That was my first day.
So size 28 to size 8 now. And you're still continuing, but so that's a huge change in 100 pounds. Hey guys, so I just want to show you basically the change that B has had in her pant size. This pair of pants is actually a size 26. And she said she started at size 28. I couldn't actually find that at the thrift store, so that was the largest. So the pants she had were actually slightly larger than this pair. And she's now wearing a size 8, which this pair of jeans is. So just so you can see the difference in the sizing, is pretty drastic actually. I mean, it's just, I want to just show you that. Just pretty drastic, and that's the 100 pounds that she's lost has given her that change in a pretty short amount of time.
Yeah, depending on the style, it's anywhere from an 8 to 10. The best thing though is being able to fit back into petites, because when you're a size 28, it's hard to find anything in petite sizes. So yeah, I have a 26.5-inch inseam. When you're buying a size 28, 26.5-inch seam isn't happening. So
I never thought about that. That's true.
I have a 16-year-old daughter, and she weighs 102 pounds. I have essentially lost my daughter.
That's amazing. So, so you used injections. Tell me again how many rounds so far you've achieved this 100 pounds?
I'm just finishing up. I'm technically still on my 4th round. Okay. I'm doing like a planned interruption just because I had some things come up that.
Sure. So finishing your 4th round. Yeah. So what is it that you like about the injections yourself?
I just like the whole one and done aspect. I'm the same way with the scale. I know a lot of people play the scale game, not me. I'm like, on it, done.
Yeah.
There's no need why weighing yourself should take more than 30 seconds.
Yeah, just keep it simple.
I've got like the Omron and whatever, which I will eventually get one when I'm probably
It's nice
doing
to
that.
keep it simple, though. Yeah, for sure.
It is. It is.
That's
I mean,
cool.
at this point, I know that I have so much that I have to lose, and I don't need all the, the minutia of it all.
Yeah.
At this point, I just need to know how much I weigh.
Yeah.
That's all I need to know
Well,
at
it's
this
obviously
point.
working,
Yeah.
So.
And it's part of my life. And from the moment, like from the very first day I loaded, I accepted the fact that as much as I used to hate the scale, it is going to be part of my life every day for the rest of my life. I know a lot of people, when they get into P3 and P4, they stop weighing. It's not going to happen with me. If I go over that mark, that where I stabilize, I need to know. For me, it's a tool. And in order for me to make informed decisions throughout my day, I need to have all the information I have. If I'm not weighing myself, I'm missing a very important piece of information to make decisions for how I'm going to feed my body throughout the day.
Yeah, I think that's a great point because since everyone is different, I'm more like you where I view it as a tool. And like you said, as long as you can look at it that way and not get too emotionally involved, it is such a great feedback tool because you kind of know I ate a certain way a certain day, and if you see the scale up, you kind of know, okay, well that is because I ate a certain way. And then you can make a different choice the following few days to eat really clean or whatever the case, and that way it's like you're able to stay in control of your own body and your own life. So that's good.
And that's the way I am with my HCG too. I want it like one and done. Just doing 3-4 times a day. You have to wait 15 minutes before, and then you have to hold it in for 15, and then you have to 45 minutes when I can do it in 10 seconds. And I've got too much other things to do during my day.
Sure. I think a lot of the reasons people choose the sublingual too is because they're afraid. They're afraid of the injections. In your opinion, do the injections actually hurt?
Not at all. Not at all.
They don't, right?
I actually keep my needles on my syringes. I keep them on my nightstand beside my bed. So when I wake up in the morning, I grab a syringe and an alcohol swab on my way to the washroom.
So you really can't forget.
Exactly. Yeah. I have it in my hand. I go in, I weigh, I come back to the kitchen, I inject, and then start my day.
That's really smart. That's very good. I wanted to ask you about this. You had an interesting story to share about just how fragile HCG is once it's mixed. I do try to talk about this with people. That's why it's so important to get it in a powdered state and mix it yourself. It's very fragile. Tell us your story about that.
When I did my last round, I had a friend stay with me close to the end, and I usually do extended rounds too. I don't do 21 days. It's always 40 days or plus. And it was probably around day 40 or so. And I had gone to work, and she had just gone in the fridge and she found my HCG there, and it was the drops. And she had been looking at it, trying to figure out what it was. And her boyfriend called, and she left my drops on the kitchen counter for 8 hours while I was at work, and I didn't know. And she ended up putting it back in before I came home. She didn't tell me about it. I ended up trying to do the 500 calories for a week with HCG that had lost its potency. And normally, I've done so much damage to my stomach that, when I'm not on protocol, I don't feel hungry usually. But when I'm on HCG, I'm like you, I'm very restrictive. My carb intake is literally no more than 5 grams a day. So my glycogen stores are completely depleted, especially by day 40.
Yeah.
So normally I don't feel hunger. When my glycogen stores are completely depleted, oh honey, I feel hunger. And it got to the point that after 7 days, I called the doctor. I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but I am just famished. So he got me to test it, and sure enough, it had lost its potency completely. So my doctor even told me, don't even bother with your 72 hours. You've already done it.
Right.
Just go right into P3. So
basically,
and that was just 8 hours.
Yeah, because before that, you said you were taking HCG. You weren't hungry. You were eating 500 calories or less, not hungry. It got left out the 8 hours. And then
I don't even do 500. I'm lucky because I cut out the grissini and the fruits. I'm lucky to hit.
Right.
And not that, but I eat the very low carb vegetables, like peel, even cucumber. I peel it. Yeah. Celery. So I'm lucky to hit between 200 and 300 a day usually.
Yeah, and you're not hungry usually. So
exactly.
But it's just amazing to me that it's just being left out only that 8 hours, and you didn't know. It's horrible. And then like you said, the first couple of days you didn't quite notice it at first because HCG does stay in your system. But then after that, you noticed it and you didn't even know. So I just think that that's a good point for, you guys out there who are listening, because it's so important. Keep it in the fridge at all times. If it gets left out, in fact, the other pharmacy said if it gets left out after 6 hours, basically at that point you should toss it, because she tested it and it was negative, and she could tell based on how you were feeling. So it's just a good thing to remember.
Yeah, and that's the only reason why I did feel hungry as well, because like I said, my glycogen stores by day 40 are non-existent.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Well, thanks for sharing that. I just think that's important for people to know. I wanted to ask you about, dosing with HCG. Since you've done 4 rounds and you've lost so much, have you found that your dose on HCG has had to change to create the same non-hunger effect?
Every round it's had to go down. At this point, like this most recent round, I've actually been dosing at 120 IU instead of 125. Okay. My very first round, and even throughout the round, I've had to adjust it because I lose very quickly. Like I don't remember watching videos from anyone else who consistently loses 30 plus pounds a round.
Right. Yeah.
But like my this most recent round, if you include my load weight, I lost 25 pounds in 24 days.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But HCG doesn't work.
I know, really.
So yeah, I tend to lose very quickly. Like my very first round, I started out dosing at 200, and by the end of the round, I was down to 140.
Okay, interesting.
I started at 150, and by the end of the round, I was down to 125.
Gotcha.
And then with the third round, most of it was sublingual, so I can't really judge with that. But this round, I started at, actually, I got new syringes and I misread the hash. The hashes wrong, so I started at 150 in the first few days. I was just like, what's going on?
Yeah.
But then once I realized that I started dosing at 125, and after about a week and a half, that was just too much. So I dropped it down to 120 and spent most of the round at 120.
And that made a difference, even just the 5 IU.
Even just the 5 IU, yeah.
I think that's so good to hear, and that's probably one of the biggest things on my site that I tell people, like, you have to get your dose right, no matter what. Get your dose right, because you don't have to be hungry, and if you are, it's a sign, that something's off. So that's good.
But don't wait a few doses. Don't wait it out either. Right. I mean, if your dose is not right, even one, you should not even. If your dose is right, you should not even have 1 day of hunger.
Yeah.
So if you're hungry on 1 day, adjust your dose the next day. Don't give it a couple of days, because you're just torturing yourself for no reason.
Yeah, and usually making that adjustment, you can feel the change pretty quickly. For the people that I talk with that need to reduce, they notice within that day. They go and they're like, oh yeah, I feel a lot better today. So even those minor changes make a big difference. What did you do to prepare yourself for the protocol? Did you spend time researching it? Did you start it as soon as you heard about it? How was that for you?
I wish I had started it as soon as I heard of it, because I would probably be done now. But I took about 6 months and just researched it. I'm a very logical, very rational thinker, and I got my doctor to review Pounds and Inches. I read it a few times, and I started researching and watching YouTube videos. And about 2 months in, I decided that, wait a minute, I'm only watching the success stories. So I even intentionally went to try to find people who it didn't work for, and was watching videos of people who had tried it and quit, and trying to figure out, like, so many people who quit halfway through a round just disappeared. I went back and I watched their videos from the beginning, and I'm like, well, you're not doing it right. If you did it the way it says, maybe you would have succeeded.
Yeah.
So I spent probably at least 2.5 months just, watching videos of people who it didn't work for, looking for,
so you can learn from it.
Up.
Very good.
And my first round, actually the first 2 rounds, the doctor actually monitored me every week too, like going in and getting blood tests done. And I had a couple of trips to the endocrinologist, just because my doctor, of course, was thinking, oh, this is too good to be true. So he wasn't really a believer in it, but he's actually been converted, if you will. So.
After seeing you, and that's cool.
Yeah, I spent at least a good 6 months researching it before I jumped in, and
that's good.
Most of that research was done trying to find people who it didn't work for.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And I mean, I think that that's just a really good example, because unfortunately, I do get contacted by people who want to start or already ordered the injections, but they have no idea what to eat, or and I just think, stop and find out the whole thing first, because this isn't like This is not like low carb where, oh, okay, I'm gonna eat low carb for a few days, but then if I don't know something or I get tired of it, I can just stop. It's kind of one of those things, once you start, you need to follow through. So I just think that's a good example. You don't necessarily have to do it for 6 months, of course. I did it, I think I researched for a couple months, but yeah, just taking a chunk of time, becoming fully aware of what's involved. And like you, that's a good idea too, to try to learn what to do and what not to do, you know? That's really good.
I'm very much one of those strange people who I learn from negative reinforcement.
Yeah.
It's like, don't tell me what to do, tell me what not to do, and I will avoid it.
And I'll do the opposite. Yeah, that's very smart. Now, you took an 8-month break between a couple of your rounds. Were you able to keep your weight stable during that time?
Yeah. I, again, because of the glycogen stores, which I think we're going to get to,
Yeah, we will.
I always stabilize. I mean, I will stay within the 2-pound range during P3 because I don't add in any fruits or carbs or anything. But once I'm out of P3, in 2 days, and once I start adding more vegetables and stuff, within 2 days, I'm 7 to 10 pounds higher, just because of the glycogen stores refilling. But once that process is completed and I'm back up, and I can always tell when it is because the muscle cramps go away.
Interesting.
And within that, like when I had stopped my second round and everything was said and done, I had stabilized at between 209 and 211 in that range, and I had originally gotten down to 203 on that round. So I stabilized at, I was usually most days around 210. So I usually stabilize around 7 pounds higher. But I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that I weigh every day. So like I said, it's 30 seconds. There's no excuse not to.
Right.
And anytime that I did go over, even in P4, I would automatically do a correction day. I wouldn't give it a couple of days or anything. It's just as soon as I see I'm 2 pounds over, steak day, egg day, you know.
And that usually brings it back.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Exactly. I find if you don't weigh every day, if you're going a full week and, you go over a pound every day that week, well, it's a lot harder to get rid of 7 pounds extra than 2 pounds extra.
Right. Now, how do you, let's go ahead and actually talk about the whole glycogen thing, just because it is part of the story. Both you and I, basically on the protocol, we do something a little different, where we don't have the fruits and the milk. Most people don't have the melba and grissini, but most people do eat the fruits. And I'm not necessarily recommending other people do this because it makes the diet extremely low carb, but I have done it on a couple rounds where I didn't eat the fruits as well. That makes it super, super low carb, which means your body, like she said, is going to be totally glycogen depleted. Your muscles hold a lot of water. I think your muscles are actually like about 65% water or something.
Yeah, and I think, depending on the research you look into, different people will say different things, but the general consensus is for 1 gram of glycogen, it takes 3 to 4 grams of water for storage.
Right.
And I think one thing we do need to point out right now is, because this could potentially get a lot of people in trouble.
Yeah.
If you are eating all of your vegetables and you're not reducing to like just the most basic low carb vegetables, if you are eating your fruits, if you are eating your maltose, this is not going to apply.
Right.
It only applies if you are depleting your glycogen stores, and the protocol itself, if followed the way it's written, you will not deplete your glycogen stores.
Right.
A lot of people don't even go into ketosis on the protocol because of the carb and protein balance. With me, I test for ketones every day, and usually by no later than day 9, I'm at like 160. Like the keto sticks are coming up almost black.
Yeah.
If you're not in ketosis, you're not depleting your glycogen stores. Yeah. One general rule of thumb I find is if you're not getting leg cramps, your glycogen stores aren't depleted. Because I don't know if maybe it's not the same for you, but
no, I actually have experienced that. Yeah, no, yeah, it's true. Yeah, and it's just a good thing to remember, because if you chose to do that, it's just you need to remember that you're, like she said, you're most likely not going to stabilize within 2 pounds of your LIW, because, like she said, that your muscles are going to naturally take that water back up, and that's not a bad thing. It's just you got to be mentally prepared. I'm the same as you. I think I'm actually 12 pounds higher than my original, but I'm stable here. And it almost all of it was muscle that came back on, or well, muscle meaning water in my muscles. So it's just a good thing to remember for anyone who does end up doing it more low carb like we have, to expect that, because I think what happens is part of it is we get some people, if we're not aware of that, then you get so discouraged that you seem to not be able to keep some of the weight off, when really you're just getting your glycogen back. So.
As soon as you start adding in, and it's not, a lot of people think it's going to be adding in breads and that. It's not that even. Even high carb vegetables.
Right.
Like there's a huge difference between cucumber with peel on and cucumber peel with peel off.
Yeah.
So even something like the peel of the cucumber, it's going to
That's so interesting.
And you have to be prepared to see that scale jump up and jump up fast. Like I had alluded to the sushi incident earlier. And this is a good example of why we don't eat sushi with HCG in our system. I had a friend, and normally I don't go out, or like when I'm on protocol, social interactions is just, it's not happening because there's
too much temptation.
Too much temptation, yes. Exactly. But I had a friend who I had not seen in 6 years, and she's got a new baby, and I've never met her baby, so she wanted to go out for sushi. I started my planned interruption early, but I mean, at the point we went out, it had only been about 36 hours since my last injection.
Yeah.
I ate two Japanese dumplings, mandayaki. I had miso soup, and I had 4 pieces of maki. I gained 7.2 pounds.
Overnight.
That's
amazing. But again, like you said, mostly water. So
again, most of it was just from the carbs, from the rice, and that my glycogen stores replenishing it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not enough to make anyone gain 7.2 pounds.
Yeah.
Any other than that.
Right.
So
that's so true.
It just goes to show. I think that's probably the most important thing that I have learned, not just in general about weight loss, but about my body in particular, is how the glycogen levels in my body affect me personally. Like I said earlier, if my glycogen levels are completely depleted, I will physically feel hunger.
Interesting.
If not, I have, when my glycogen stores aren't depleted, I've gone 3-4 days and not even had my stomach grumble. Like you go 3-4 days without eating and not feel hunger at all.
Yeah, interesting.
So,
that's interesting.
But I'm just used to going that. I mean, that's my big issue. Is a lot of people have emotional eating problems. I'm just lazy.
Yeah.
I enjoy cooking, but not for myself. So I'm a very lazy eater. I'd rather just not eat at all than take the effort to cook for one person.
Too much trouble. No, I hear you on that actually. So that's a good thing then. So you stabilize higher because of not having such few carbs on HCG, and that's a good point for everyone else to remember. Now, you said when you do P3 that you actually usually are within the 2-pound range, but then once P3 is over and you start having healthy starches again, that glycogen thing happens and you gain several pounds. How do you know when to basically stop worrying about that? Like, because you said now in P4 that you do steak days when you see. So how do you decide you're at that point where, okay, that was just glycogen, but anything future would be fat? Like, how do you know for yourself?
Well, I mean, once your glycogen stores are replenished, and it doesn't take very long. Usually, the research I read, it's usually your first $4,000 calories. Your first 4,000 calories worth of carbs is all it takes to refill your glycogen stores.
Interesting.
You can do that in a matter of a few days usually. So after the first week, I mean, and usually with me it's not that hard, because as soon as I start P4, I intentionally carb load just to get it over and done with.
I see.
I know it's going to happen, so I completely carb load. Like usually my first day of P4, I will eat in Canada, medium pizza is like 10 inches. So I will eat a medium pizza myself, the entire thing in one day.
Yeah.
That's first day of P4. I always have just a medium pizza and like garlic fingers. And I know by day 2, my glycogen stores are refilled. I just need to, drink enough water for it. So,
Okay, cool. So from that point
so-
on, then you kind of track your scale weight every day, and then if it goes up, then you would do some type of correction day.
exactly.
Cool. So you were able then to keep your weight stable at that point for 8 months between the 2 rounds, right? And you said you even went on a trip and only gained a few pounds or something, right?
I went to Norway and I was there for 3 weeks and I gained 3 pounds.
Yeah, I think that's excellent because you know how it is. I think everyone who's watching this knows too. When you travel and there's all kinds of food and it's just so different from normal life. It's very difficult to keep things in balance, you know. So that's pretty good.
Well, during that trip as well, I mean, I wasn't just there. We spent a week in Copenhagen and we were literally eating out every meal. And I am so lucky that like I said, there's a difference between Bee's Body on protocol and Bee's Body off protocol.
Yeah.
On protocol, carbs, even fruit, out of the question. Can't handle it. When I'm off protocol and in life maintenance, I can eat all the carbs I want.
Yeah.
And when we were in Copenhagen, I was eating pizza every day. I was eating hot dogs.
Wow.
We were going steak and French fries.
Mm-hmm.
And I was eating like croissants for breakfast every day, like
Wow.
chocolate croissants. And the whole trip I gained 3 pounds.
Wow, that's amazing.
Well, it goes to show. I mean, it really does reset your metabolism, and if you do it right, you can go on to eat whatever you want, as long as it's within moderation. Like,
yeah, I think.
Other than that first day of P4, just to replenish my glycogen source, I don't eat a medium pizza every time.
That's probably good to clarify. Yeah.
That's nice, and that's good, but the first day.
So in moderation, you can eat what you want, and I think part of it too is it's kind of twofold. Eating it, like you said, in moderation, and also some people come to find they do have different food sensitivities. So obviously, the carbs that you eat, you're not sensitive to, and so your body doesn't gain from that. Whereas for others of us, we might have certain ones, and we may not be able to eat a pizza. Or I'm allergic. I found out I was allergic to gluten through this protocol actually, and so it helped me to get it out of my diet. But everyone's different, but it's just nice to hear that though.
The only food that I do tend to have issues with, and it really sucks because I love bacon, is pork products. Are inflammatory for me without, and it always takes me a couple of days to get over it. But that being said, I always add them back in, just because not in huge amounts, but I want to try to build up a bit of a resistance to it.
Sure. I'm kind of like that with dairy because I did get rid of the gluten because I had a strong enough reaction. I mean, it was so bad that I might have to go to the ER type thing. So I was like, okay, this is probably bad for me. But when it comes to dairy, it was more of just like a slight uncomfortableness that I was like, you know what? I am not ready to give up dairy. So I'm just going to make my body eat cheese, and I can tolerate it. I can still tolerate it. Maybe someday I'll get rid of it, but I'm just not there yet. So, that's interesting.
And I think that's another reason why I do. I know it's hard on my system, and one thing I've discovered, and I think it was Michael Alonso was having an issue with this too. I find the more restrictive you are on P2, the harder your P3 is, because especially if you've done a long round, because if your body is only used to digesting chicken, you start throwing in other foods, and it's going to wreak havoc on your digestive system. So for me, ham and pork is the hardest thing on me. So that is one of the first things I add back in, just to get it over and done with. So when I start adding the steak and that back in, my digestive system's already revved up for it.
Gotcha.
So.
But you do find that even though it's a little bit rough, you are able to pretty much add back everything. Just takes a little time.
I don't add a lot of sweets in. I've never have though. But and even with fruits, I tend to not add a lot of fruits back in either. And the ones I do add are the ones that you don't want to add on P3, like bananas and things that aren't as sweet but more starchy. So
Gotcha. You said you eat fairly freely of certain carbs in P4 and that does well for your body, but you did mention something about sugar. Do you? I've never really liked sugar to begin with, but I find sugar gets me wired. It really does. Yeah. So that might be part of your success too, is that you're having more carby stuff, but more salty carbs, but not having sugar. That might be part of why that works.
Even when I'm snacking, I've never been really a sweet snacker. Like, I know everybody loves their chocolate delight or Cocoa D, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
It's never been an appeal for me, and I find I don't know, the people who do indulge in that, even though, you know, it's on P2 for some people, are the ones that tend to have the biggest problems. Because I think once you get the taste for the sweetness, even if it's something that's healthier, it's just going to lead you into other problems. I mean, P2, it's meant to be bland. It really is. And if you start adding in sweets, once you get the taste for it, you're going to want it more.
Right.
So even though it is a healthier alternative, I find a lot of people, it probably just leads them down a road they're better off not even thinking about.
Right.
I mean, after all, it's 21 to 43 days. It's a very finite period of time. Yeah. So.
No, it's true. I'll vouch for that. I'm not a big chocolate delight fan, and myself, I don't even really support the idea really of coconut oil on P2 anymore myself. I'm leery of it for some reasons, but I have in the past tried making a couple little recipes that involved, something sweet and coconut oil, and I did find, like, I made a whole plate, was only supposed to eat 1 or 2, and somehow the whole plate was gone that day. You know, 'cause it's true, you start eating it and then you just want more of it. So it is true, being strict, you know.
I find even with fruits, I mean, if I eat when I was, like my first round, I did eat fruit on it, and, you know, I'd eat an apple, and it would make me hungry.
Yeah. I've experienced the same thing. It's so interesting.
So that's actually one of the reasons why I first started cutting the fruits out, is because, you know, like, normally I'm not hungry, but I eat an apple and all of a sudden I'm hungry. So
so it's like actual less cravings and less hunger without the fruits. That's interesting.
Exactly. And the same thing with the breadsticks or the Melba as well. So if I get to the point where I'm really, really hungry, or if I need to have a cheat, I'll do an extra protein serving.
Sure. Yeah, that's smart.
Smart. I guess I'm kind of lucky that way anyway, because I tend to crave meat more than anything else.
Yeah, well, that's good. What is your experience with dirty and clean loading? I'd love to hear. You've done both. Tell me about that.
I used to be a big proponent of dirty loading until was actually my third round. I was loading dirty. I put on 12 pounds, and it took me almost a week and a half to get rid of it.
Yeah, it's
this last round I loaded dirty, and I mean, P3, the last time I dirty loaded, I monitored it, and I only did about 4,000 calories a day, and I put on 12 pounds.
Because I had carbs and sugar in there.
Yeah. Round 4, I loaded clean. I mean, I think in that 2-day period, I ate like 2 pounds of mac nuts. Yeah, not advised.
It's so funny.
Let me just say, if you're going to eat 2 pounds of mac nuts, make sure you chew them really well.
Oh my goodness. Thanks for that. Good point. Best point of the whole interview. But anyway, so you clean loaded, which for anyone who's not sure, that means loading basically low carb, high fat, not having sugar and carbs, but instead loading on high fat calories and protein. So
I eat a ton of mac nuts. I've discovered my new favorite loading food is you make bacon weaves and then layer it with guacamole and sour cream.
Oh, that sounds really good.
Put it in. Do you know what cloud bread is?
Yeah, kind of. Maybe you can explain it.
It's made with eggs and cheese. It's absolutely fabulous.
Cool.
For like cheeseburger buns and things like that.
Awesome. I'll have to try it.
Amazing. But I like throw it in between some cloud bread just because it's kind of greasy. But yeah, that. Tons of bacon and guacamole sandwiches. I managed to take in between 7,000 and 10,000 calories a day, both days, loading. And I was doing protein shakes. I found a really low carb protein shake. It's got like 20 grams of protein and 2 grams of carbs.
Oh, cool.